Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are certainly going through a very intense time right now in the UK. A lot of things are being spoken about, specifically surrounding the grooming gang scandal that rocked our nation for decades and still haunts a lot of places today. If you've been on X recently, you would have seen pretty much everybody talking about it and discussing just how horrifying it actually is, and people within the UK and outside of the UK are starting to learn just how bad things really are. Now, if you have no idea what this is about and you haven't seen the uproar on social media, essentially we faced a big issue in this country. We had, and probably still do have, Pakistani men up and down the country doing horrifying, despicable things to young British girls. Thousands of them, and it was covered up for a very, very long time for many reasons. You know, politicians knew about it, did nothing. Police knew about it, did nothing in a lot of cases, and the mainstream media knew about it and didn't report on it on the way it should be, and we all know why. Now, one of the reasons that is floating about as to why people didn't act on it in the way they should have is because they didn't want to be seen as racist. Don't speak about this in the way it should be spoken about, don't discuss the truth, or you might be racist. Now, when I sit here and say that, it sounds absolutely ridiculous, doesn't it? We have people within this country who said, no, you know what, we're not going to talk about this, we're not going to investigate this because we don't want to be seen as offensive. We don't want to upset a community. We don't want to be seen as racist. And not only was that one of the reasons, it would have also cost Labour, for example, a lot of votes. So all these things are apparently more important than, well, looking after thousands of young British girls in the country. So when you hear this Labour government, especially the feminists within it, who come out and say, oh, we've always cared about girls' safety and we still do, they don't. Now, Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips has come under the spotlight recently with this whole situation after she rejected an inquiry in Oldham because apparently it's up to Oldham Council to decide whether an inquiry should be made with this rather than have the government intervene. Yeah, what an absolute joke. Now, Elon Musk, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware of, has been speaking about this issue quite a bit, and he has really gone after the Labour government, Keir Starmer and Jess Phillips. And I find it interesting, you know, we have people in this country who care more about people like Elon Musk speaking about the issue than the issue itself. Oh my gosh, I can't believe Elon Musk is talking about this. He should just stay quiet, stop interfering. Really? But because of what Elon Musk has said about Jess Phillips on X, she has now been in interviews, and as you would imagine, naturally, she is being painted as the victim. And not only that, MPs, politicians in this country, have just voted against a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. Like, sometimes I wake up and I think to myself, what is going on here? What are we doing? What sort of place have we become? Left is right, up is down, and you know how the saying goes by now. Common sense is hard to find. Now, before we get into all of this, ladies and gentlemen, if you could, as always, make sure to leave a like rating as it really, really helps out the video. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video. Comment on this video, share this video, follow my socials down below in the description, and let's get into it. So the Telegraph, as you can see, have reported Jess Phillips says Musk's R-word genocide apologist attack turned my world upside down. Jess Phillips has said there is a data gap on the ethnicities of grooming gangs abusing children. The Home Office Minister said the government was working at pace to get hold of more information about the grooming gangs, but said it needed to be looked into 100%. Right. Should have been looked into ages ago. During an interview with ITV News, Ms. Phillips also admitted that her world has been turned upside down after Elon Musk branded her an R-word genocide apologist and a witch. It comes after Elon Musk, the Tesla billionaire and Trump ally, launched a war of words against Keir Starmer's government following revelations that Ms. Phillips refused to fund an inquiry into historical child in Oldham despite a request from the town's council. Asked about the ethnicity point of concerns regarding cases of child, Ms. Phillips said one of the recommendations in the Alexis J review, which is absolutely something that we have already started to work on at pace, is the data gap on both victims and perpetrators of child. In her first public remarks on the comments, the Labour minister said the billionaire knew absolutely nothing about the subject. Right. Ms. Phillips told ITV, it's ridiculous, isn't it? The things that he's saying are so ridiculous as to initially make me just go, what? Yeah, well, that's what we felt when we found out that you rejected an inquiry. What? What is she doing? You're not a victim here, I'm sorry. But then you wake up with the realization that's millions of people that he has said that to. And you feel immediately like this is going to turn my world upside down, and I have to try and limit for how long that is the case. But my immediate thought was just like, it's sort of like, what a joke. And then the realization of what this is probably going to mean for you. So again, I don't know how they're allowing this woman to be the victim. You know, what about all the girls that have been affected by this? What about their world turning upside down just because somebody said some mean words on social media? And yeah, you can argue maybe he went a little too far with one of the comments, but they're just words on social media. Hurty words upset people, but serious situations like girls going through pretty much, you know, let's call it for what it is, torture, well, we don't focus on that enough. The thing that annoys me the most is it takes up so much bandwidth of my time from a man who knows absolutely nothing about the subject he's talking about, when the only thing I ever want to be doing is being able to use all of my brain power to focus on the hundreds of girls I've supported over the years who have been victims of grooming gangs and what needs to happen to make their lives better and to stop what is still happening today. Well, you're not doing a great job of that one, are you? Asked further about the impact of his words, she said the few days of madness is nothing compared to the decades sat in police stations with girls bleeding from a battering that they've taken from a grooming gang, so I'll put on my big girl pants and just suck it up. I mean, if you've been through that and you've sat in police stations, why have you not gone further with this? For so long, a lot of people, including Labour politicians, have ignored this, and that goes for Conservative politicians as well. And it's not just me that has this sort of opinion. We have a lot of people on X who have also reiterated the same thing. Lee Harris says, I'm sorry, but I can't feel sorry for Jess Phillips after she blocked a national inquiry into Pakistani R-word gangs. I do, however, feel sorry for the thousands of girls failed by the system she represents, the same system that turned a blind eye and helped cover it up. Now, hopefully, I don't get copyrighted for this. Let's just take a listen to what she has to say.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? So it's sort of the very premise of your question is that the things that he's saying are so ridiculous as to initially make me just go, what?
Why do they all look the same?
But then you wake up with the realisation that that's millions of people that he has said that to.
Yes, and there are thousands of girls that have been let down.
You feel immediately like this is going to turn my world upside down, and I have to try and limit for how long that is the case. But you know, it's not. My immediate thought was like, it's sort of like, what a joke.
Yes, your government is an absolute joke. Crimea River. But we have Alex Armstrong, who has said the Labour cover-up goes even further. When the father of a grooming gang victim, met Jess Phillips, the woman we just saw, in November and told her he wanted a national inquiry, he found the minutes of the meeting removed, all mention of it, and replaced with the word strategy. This is doctoring of the truth that Starmer just said politicians should staunchly defend. This is the most corrupt government in history. But yes, let's all feel sorry for politicians, shall we? Let's take a listen.
GB News can also reveal this afternoon that Marlon West met with the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, in November, where he introduced to her his demand for a national public inquiry. However, in minutes that were sent to him later after the meeting, all references to a national public inquiry were removed, and instead there was talk of a national strategy. GB News can also reveal...
Joke. But as I also mentioned at the beginning of this video, MPs have voted against new national inquiry into grooming gangs. The vote was largely symbolic, aimed at putting pressure on Labour after comments by Elon Musk brought grooming gangs back into the spotlight. You might not like him, I certainly do have my questions about him as well, but he has brought this into the spotlight, so I don't really get how people can be mad about somebody doing that. A Tory bid to launch a new national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal has been voted down by MPs amid criticism of political game playing. MPs rejected the amendment to the Children's Wellbeing Bill by 364 to 111, a majority of 253. However, even if the Commons had supported this measure, it wouldn't have actually forced the government to open the desired inquiry due to parliamentary procedure. Instead, it would have the government's legislation, the aim of which is to reform things like the children's care system and raise educational standards in schools. I don't get why the two can't coexist. Why can't we have this bill, for example, and then a national inquiry at the same time? The division list showed no Labour MPs voted in favour of the Conservative amendment. Those who backed the proposal include all of Reform's 5 MPs and 101 Tory MPs. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if in the years to come we see Reform and the Tories joining in some way to take down this Labour government. I don't know if I'd support the Tories joining Reform, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Though some senior figures, including former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and former Home Secretaries James Cleverly and Suella Braverman, were recorded as not voting. The Liberal Democrats abstained, but said they will instead lay their own amendment calling for the recommendations to be enacted in full when the bill reaches the committee stage in order to avoid blocking the passage of important child safeguarding measures. But this is the state of the UK right now, ladies and gentlemen. I just cannot believe, regardless of what is going on in politics, whatever, I just cannot believe this was allowed to go on. Like, we have all these conversations going on surrounding this whole thing when people talk about it. People go into many different things. Oh, what about this? What about that? Look, thousands and thousands of young girls went through horrific things. And again, still some are probably going through it now. This needs to be addressed. There are so many people who were complicit in covering this up and allowing it to go on. They need, quite frankly, to be thrown in jail. They need jail time. Anyway, leave your thoughts down below, ladies and gentlemen. What are your thoughts on this whole story? I'd like to know. If you have enjoyed, make sure to leave a like rating. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video. Comment on this video, share this video, follow my socials down below in the description. But until next time, it has been your host JD. Have a great day, stay safe, and I'm out. Peace.